TV18's Future Female Forward.
Time of the evening. There is so much energy out here. It's CNBC TV18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective. You're watching us here from the red carpet. I'm Manglam Malu. With me, my colleague Rachna Dhandrajani as well. Incredible women, incredible stories, and importantly, moving the needle on gender parity as well. So let's kickstart things with the first guest that we have on the red carpet. We have Shraddha Shashidhar, who's the former Miss India Universe Diva. Man, that is some sort of an achievement.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manglam. That's really kind of you.
I'm also given to understand that you are an avid CNBC TV18 watcher.
Absolutely. You know, I was 14 years old and my parents would tune into it morning and evening, and I would keep watching this one person who's Shireen Bhan, right? And I'd keep wondering, wow. And I guess I got hooked onto it since then.
Would you get nervous if I called her here right now and I just surprised you?
I don't know if I'd be nervous, but I would definitely be in awe. So.
All right, so let's get Shireen herself. Wow, what a surprise. Here's a person who's been watching you for a very long time, Shireen, and
that's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad that you could be here.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Thank you so much for having me here.
And this event is really about young people like Shraddha coming together, and we need all hands on deck. So I'm really glad that she's here with us this evening, and also on course to start your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes,
so maybe we should hear a little bit about that.
Well, right away? Oh, wow. You know, I'm in the quest of reaching out to the 0.1% people who are into wellness, mindset, and luxury, you know. And I want to have my own talk show where people can come in and have an open discussion about our Shastras, our Vedas, and what is the root of India, and bring it forward. With that, having a social impact fund would just be incredible.
wow, a talk show. A person wants to start a talk show on luxury, wellness, talking about Vedas and Shastras. What do you have to say about that?
I'm just saying, go for it. I mean, I would love to watch you doing that talk show, and love to hear what you have to say. And good luck with all of that. I truly hope that this is a successful venture for you, as and when you do decide to jump into it.
Thank you so much.
For me, the most interesting thing was luxury, retail, wellness, and I was like, FMCG is life. Let's do this. Luxury is the one thing that's doing extremely well.
Absolutely.
Most important question, how do you plan to make it more gender equal? How do you plan to, make it more inclusive for everyone who's watching?
You know, I would love for it to be an entirely women-led organization, but we shouldn't leave the men behind, you know.
Yeah.
So, so I would say a 50-50 would be a fair play of 50 men, 50 women, assuming it's a 100 employed, organization. So, yeah.
All right. And in your journey so far, what have been some of the key milestones which you believe have done well for you to, progress, and where you didn't face a lot of gender-related inequality? And what were the events where you did face gender-related inequalities?
Well, quite frankly, all my life, I guess, with my journey, I've experienced, very fortunately, good people around. Who have been well-wishers, who've been mentors, who've been my guide. So I've been really fortunate there. Well, like you said, not having the right mentors can also put you on a different path. So I guess surrounding yourself with the right people, right time, and the right mindset really matters. Without that, I do not see anybody take off in any direction, because it's a team that comes together. It's the us mentality versus the I mentality. You know what I'm saying? So.
Totally take that point. And just before we wrap this conversation, Shireen, something that was very interesting that she told me about was that she's also an expert of the South Indian martial art, Kalaripayattu.
Wow.
So I grew up actually learning martial arts, and quite recently I went to a place called Auroville, and I learned this art form called Kalaripayattu. And that's where the Vedas and the Shastras came into my life. And I said, well, I've been a former journalist myself, and let me see if I can bring that into the storytelling narrative and really tap into, like I said, the luxury and the wellness space, and put India on an international platform. That's just the little tiny dream of a young little girl.
Wonderful.
It's a big dream of a very fierce, fearless young woman, and we wish you all the very best of luck with that.
All right, thank you, Shireen, for stopping by, surprising her. Thank you, Shraddha, for coming in. And Shraddha did speak about how women are fighting fires all day and they're doing extremely well. We got someone who's literally doing that for a living, someone we have to be very, very thankful to. Rachna, take it away.
I am also here at FFF and we're joined by Group Captain Monica Bijlani. Thank you so much, ma'am, for gracing us with your presence at this event today. I'd like to first start by asking you, what is it that one message you'd like to give to young women, young girls who are looking up to you and who are also aspiring to be a woman in office, a woman in a uniform?
Thank you so much, Rachna. Thank you, CNBC, for having me here. I think the one message that I would like to give girls and young girls who are aspiring to join the Indian Air Force is just just have faith and confidence in your ability and go and do it out there, because all these words like, glass ceilings and all are all man-made worlds. They don't exist. And just have faith and confidence in yourself and go and live your dreams. You'll be a success.
Since you don't believe in the concept of glass ceiling and for all the right reasons, but I still have to ask you, what is that one hurdle that you felt was the most difficult in your life and you've now crossed over it?
I guess the biggest hurdle was convincing my dad that it's okay for girls to join the Indian Air Force. And let me tell you that, by 1 or 2 years while I was in the service, he was fully convinced that yes, even girls can join the armed forces and make a life and make a career out of it.
Well, you've of course motivated many young girls to get into the forces, but what is it that one thing that keeps you motivated to get up every day, don your uniform and get about life?
I think not only for me, I think it's for everyone, that what motivates us to go out there and give our best is we all feel that we owe it to the organization, which is giving us our bread, butter, jam, everything. And in my case, doubly more, because I owe it to the uniform that I'm wearing. I owe it to the nation that has placed so much of trust and confidence in us, that I have to, get up every day and go and give my 100%. So I guess it's the faith and the trust and the confidence that is placed in us. And why only women? I think that holds true for all human beings.
Ma'am, obviously, thank you so much for your service, but I'd like to understand from you that how have our armed forces sort of made this level playing field for girls and boys alike?
I think how the armed forces had made this a level playing field for girls and boys is by giving equal opportunities to them. By not only giving them equal opportunities, but also ensuring that the standards that they have set are same for both girls and boys, for men and women. The same physical standards are expected, the same mental, intellectual standards are expected from both boys and girls. And when somebody, places that much confidence in you that, yes, you all are human beings, you all are equal, and it is the merit, that would see you through. Obviously, you stop thinking about yourself as a woman or as a man for that matter. So giving equal opportunities, setting the same kind of standards, and awarding merit. So when merit is awarded, your gender goes out of the whole scheme of things. Then you don't think about the gender. And also there has been a culture. See, even when we joined the Indian Air Force 30 years back, or rather women joined the Indian Air Force some 32 years back, the forces was not used to having women. And I'm sure every organization, takes those baby steps when there is a change. But thankfully, the Indian Air Force went out and embraced that change, that cultural, quotient and the cultural difference. They embraced it. In fact, the Indian Air Force was the first amongst the three armed forces, armed services, to give permanent commission to women officers. They were the first to induct fighter pilots. So so I guess all these gradual changes has made the Indian Air Force adapt itself to this cultural change of having women, amongst themselves.
And we are here today to celebrate this change. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And once again, thank you so much for your service. But now we'll go back to Mangalam, and let's now joined by a lady who's a force to reckon with in the legal industry and generally in life too. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining me today and for joining us here at the event today. I'd first like to start by asking, ma'am, of course, you are someone that every young lawyer looks up to, irrespective of their gender. But what is it that one message you'd like to give to young girls who are stepping into the legal field, who are wanting to be just like you?
I think to be realistic about the effort that you will have to make. It is still largely a man's world in the legal profession. To make sure you have the passion to sustain all the ups and downs that life will dish out to you as women, and to enjoy what you're doing so that you don't want to leave it.
Right. You, of course, had a legacy also to carry forward, but you were also making a name for yourself. You moved from New York to India. How is that transition, and what inspired you, and what is it that one thing that kept you going every day?
Well, I came back to get married, actually. So that's what inspired me. But I think when I came back, it was quite scary because it was 1984. There were no women arguing in court. It was tough. I hadn't really studied Indian law. I was learning it. I was going along. But there was a determination to succeed, to make sure that I was as good, if not better, than my peers. And it took a lot of hard work and a lot of nervousness.
A lot of nervousness. How did you get over that?
Worked harder.
So, but also, legal profession is seen as a very tough, competitive. Everyone's out there for themselves. What is it that one thing you'd like to suggest to young lawyers who might want to give up or who might not have the motivation to keep going every day?
If you're not passionate about the profession, you won't last in it. So it's a question of whether you want to experience a couple of years at a law firm and then try something else. If you are passionate about it and there's a month or 2 months of stress that has got you really, what is all this, then I would suggest do what I do. Take a few days off, take some deep breaths, think about whether it's worth giving up or coming back to. Talk to your bosses to say that, you'd like a little more structure. And usually because if people are talented, the organization looks after them.
Right. This is particularly interesting because we're living in times where we're being encouraged to look at 70 hours, 90 hours work weeks. But here you are saying take some few days off. I'm sure every lawyer, especially at AZB, is going to be very happy about it. But what is your take on the work-life balance debate?
Well, our lawyers do take the 2-3 days off, just FYI. And I think that, there's no formula to the work week. At any law firm, it depends on what you need to deliver to the client, whether the client is right in asking for the deadlines, sometimes unreasonable in asking for the deadlines, but we are a service provider, so we have to achieve. So we try and train some clients. Some clients are inherently reasonable, but I think all of us know that ultimately the job has to get done.
We're professionals. We also see a lot of women struggle to get their voice heard, especially in a man's world. How did you get over that impediment of getting heard, especially because you partner with 2 men as well?
So I'm a Baha'i by religion, and one of our religious commandments is men and women are totally equal. So my mother brought us up that way. She's a Baha'i. And so I never felt that I was inferior to my brothers. And I guess that feeling of confidence carried through. My male partners don't think I'm anything less than equal, poor things. But I think because the tone from the top is from a strong woman, we have a better shot as a law firm in making sure that women can be heard. There are other law firms that are also headed up by women, and they will do the same good job.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's the hope. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you. We'll now go back to Mangalam and see who he has for us now.
We have with us Mr. Hitendra Dave. Who better than him to speak about this, because it's HSBC presents Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective. Mr. Dave, thank you. It's a pleasure being associated with you across a lot of our platforms. But this one in particular, very close to our hearts, very close to business as well. Largely because it is said that if there was equal opportunity given to all genders, there was pay parity, then the GDP growth could actually be higher by about 300-400 basis points. What is your thought on DEI and at your organization as well?
No, I think it's a great point you pick up. I think the term that is used is labor force participation, female labor force participation rate, and India actually has one of the lowest female labor force participation rates. So if we got more women to just join the formal labor force, I think every data, every study seems to suggest one of the fastest ways to increase your GDP and the rate of growth of GDP is to get more women in. And so this program is about having these discussions so that more and more people can contribute to that. I think that's one. In terms of, I think, diversity, inclusion, etc., I think I've always maintained we shouldn't do it because it's a good thing to do or it's a societally good thing to do. That is for the public authorities to do. We need to do it because there is enough evidence that companies that have a diverse management, companies that have an inclusive culture will end up always producing better products and delivering the products better to our customers. So that's the spirit in which we have participated here, to do good, but to do good for ourselves first of all.
Totally makes sense. What's good for society is also good for business. We take that point entirely. But, while we talk about all of these things, there are very few companies or organizations that back it up with action. Is there anything that you are particularly proud of at your organization?
I think, first of all, I have to say that most large companies now treat diversity and inclusion as one of the operating principles. So I think very, very few companies will not talk about this, right? In our place, I think there are many, many programs we do. I'll just give you a little example of a program called Power to Her, which encourages any woman who has dropped out of the workforce at any stage from her early 20s all the way to 50s and wants to come back and experiment whether the time work, whether the discipline, etc. is still there. And in many, many cases, we find many of these people who join us as temporary actually end up getting absorbed in the organization, and then we ask them to post and talk to other people, because that's exactly how you bring back the labor force, women labor force participation.
And back of the hand, if you have any knowledge of what your labor force mix is.
I think more important than the absolute labor force mix for a bank like us, it's how many women are there in the senior leadership, because then they become role models, and then it becomes easier for younger women to follow in their footsteps. So there we are currently at about 27% or so, and it's significantly better than what it was 5 years back.
Wonderful. And apart from all of this, just a general question since we have you with us, how's business?
No, I think, our business is doing quite well, thank you. We declared our 2024 numbers about a month back or so, and you can look that up in the public releases. And we continue to look at India as one of the most dynamic opportunities in a country where the maximum opportunity exists for a bank like ours. And hopefully we'll do justice to that opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining in and giving us your perspective on this. That was the India head of HSBC, Hitendra Dave, speaking about gender parity, labor force participation. With that, we will hand it over to Rachna once again. Rachna.
Okay, thank you so much, Mangalam. Now we have with us a woman that we can we'd love to hear from her actually. Thank you so much. But I'd first like to know, what is it that you're looking forward to today at Future Female Forward?
I think a celebration of women leading in every sector, in every field, and to just, be able to spend some time with them and share stories. I think it's really wonderful to see the group that's come together.
But Chandrika, I'd like to know from you, in your experience in running Antra Foundation, what is it that we need as women leaders to encourage more women in leadership?
I think it's not very hard actually. We at the Antra Foundation are predominantly women, mostly young women under 30, going and working in remote rural areas, basically for maternal and child health. And I find it takes very little. Women today, especially younger women, are hungry for opportunity. And if anything, I'm learning from them because it's such an incredible, the courage and the spirit of adventure is something that I don't remember happening when I was their age. So I think it's a really fabulous. So I think all you need to do is to give them a little bit of opportunity and not stand in their way. I think that's really what's needed.
Right. Like we were saying, that we're here to celebrate women in business, in leadership, everywhere across the sectors. What do you think is that common tie, apart from patriarchy, of course, that ties all women across sectors together and that we all need to come together and look forward to or work towards?
I think it's a sense of shared experience, shared sisterhood, a sense that the journey that women undertake in their lives, it doesn't matter which sector you're working in, it doesn't matter which part of the world you're working in, it's essentially a very similar story. And I think that the themes that run through that story are the caregiving, the unpaid work, and the challenges of balancing multiple demands on our time. And I think that is common across any category of women that you think about. So that sense of shared experience allows us to create a world where we take account of these things and make adjustments to make sure that work life is not at odds with the kind of responsibilities women have, and actually all people have, in building a community, building families, building themselves, and creating space for all of that at the same time.
But I think as women, of course, what you said is absolutely correct. But as women, and you would agree to it, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of guilt of leaving the family behind. There's a lot of guilt of not being able to balance the way you would want, or one would want you to, the expectations of the society. How do you suggest we deal with that?
See, a lot of that is conditioning from very early childhood. But I think the more role models there are, the more women see other women and learn from them. I think these can go away. These are not hard-coded. They're the strong influences in our lives. These restrictions we put on ourselves. But I think if there are enough role models that young women can see that there are women that can work hard, make difficult choices, get supported in those choices, and not be under pressure to do everything by themselves and form those communities of support, then I think that will change.
Right. So when you see it, you be it. That is one thing that we're told very regularly as women also. Well, that's the message we're getting from Chandrika of Ansra Foundation. Back to Mangalam.
And I have with me Archana Chadda, who's the chief head of HR in HSBC itself. And when we talk about future female forward, when we talk about labor force participation, when we talk about, making the workplace more amenable for all genders, inclusive as well, it's the HR that matters the most. Leaders can come, talk, all of that can happen. But at the end of the day, the policies that the chief people's officer in an organization makes is the one that actually makes or breaks the labor force participation, and at the same time, how a woman's career would be in that organization itself. So in that, what is it that you believe has been done already by corporate India, and what according to you needs to be done even more?
Okay, so first of all, congratulations on the 3rd year anniversary for Female Future Forward, and we feel very proud to be sponsoring it and, working for the cause. We very strongly at HSBC believe that diversity and inclusion is the most important aspect of bringing a gender equal workforce, because it's not only the right thing to do, it is a smart business thing to do, because if you have a balanced workforce, you have more innovation, you have more ideas, and you deliver better. So besides, getting the whole exco or the whole leadership to talk the walk the talk, we have policies which are gender neutral. We have training programs for women across all levels. We've got hiring practices which are non-biased. So when somebody is going to hire, you have to go through a training wherein you go and check for your own biases. We also ensure that, women who come into the workforce are welcomed and they are onboarded in a particular manner so that they feel included in the workforce right from the start. Women at different levels, we also put them through training programs so that, they are able to go and fight for that seat on the table. And of course, we've got mentoring. And a lot of initiatives are not only for women, but it's also for ensuring that the organization is well trained so that when somebody comes in, everybody behaves in a particular manner, and it's not only a particular segment. And last but not the least, we try and support women through the different milestones they have in life, whether it's maternity, wherein we are one of the leading banks where we have got a childcare allowance and we have an extended maternity leave with flexible working in it. Besides that, we've also tapped alternate talent pools through our Power to Her program, where women who've taken a break because of their caregiving responsibilities, we hire them back, train them and give them jobs. This program has seen a 60% conversion. So I think we cover every facet of a woman's life.
Wonderful. Let's talk about numbers then. I was told by Hitendra just moments ago that 27% women participation in leadership is what you have. You spoke about the caregiving responsibilities, etc. From an extended maternity space, one of the things that happens is that we see this leaky bucket where once the woman goes the family way, typically returning to the organization is a lot more difficult for her. For whatever reason. So what is it that you in your organization have done for it to be a lot more comfortable? And at the same time, what according to you is the benefit of that in terms of numbers, if you could say, what's the retention been?
Sure, thanks. So for us, women coming back from maternity has been a very important space, and we've taken very leading initiatives over here. So one of the support items that a woman needs is help at home. In India, you do not have very evolved daycare services, and people do not put their kids in daycare. So we actually give a nanny allowance to say keep a nanny at home or keep somebody to help your mother-in-law or your mother at home, and you can come into office. So we actually give a nanny allowance. This is given per child on a monthly basis. We give you the support to be able to come back to work, and when you come back to work, we do a lot of sensitization with your line manager to let them know about the support you would require. We also sensitize your colleagues. Besides that, when you're coming back, we give you extended flexible working because you may need to go home. When you come into office, we also have got nursing rooms. So if you need to go and, store your milk, we've got refrigerators and private nursing rooms where you can actually, take care of your child's needs. Besides that, of course, the creche service is available.
So what's the retention been?
The retention has been, we used to have an attrition of about 30%. We've come down to 10%.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us all these insights and nuggets. I'm sure a lot of organizations watching that would, draw a page or two from the wonderful book that you've written on, gender equality and equal labor force participation, giving everyone the right opportunity. Thank you so much, Archana. With that, we'll hand it back to Rachna. Rachna, who do you have with you?
Well, joining me now is Maya Srikumar of Cognizant. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We look forward to you attending the event today. But I'd first like to start by asking that at Cognizant, what are the key diversity and inclusion priorities for this year and beyond?
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. When you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, there are multiple aspects that come into picture. But focused for Cognizant is our women and the gender diversity. And so the focus area is how do we ensure that we have overall a much more higher percentage of women. We want to reach a gender parity eventually, and also look at how we can have more women in leadership roles. So towards that, there are multiple programs that we have been having. One of them I would say is our returnship program, and we invite a lot of returnees who would want to come back to workforce to join.
These are returned from the maternity leaves?
Those have taken career break.
Okay.
So those have taken a year or 18 months career break and have 3 to 5 years experience, but do not know how to come back to work. Cognizant is open to take a look at you and then welcome you back into workforce. That is one. We are looking at inclusion trainings because we feel when people around us are more inclusive and there is more sponsorship and allyship, then we can have a better gender diversity as well. So we are focusing on a lot of inclusion training programs and overall development through male allyship. Third is being sponsors for women, because there is a lot of mentorship going on, but then we need true sponsors who can kind of create the visibility, build a network, and then kind of promote them eventually. So these are some of the programs that we are focusing on from a women gender diversity perspective.
I think these are very important, especially the break one, because it's not really encouraged to take a break, but if there is a space, I'm sure a lot of young women are getting encouraged and will be coming Cognizant's way. But I'd also like to understand from you that at Cognizant, how do you make sure that it's a part of the DNA of the entire ecosystem and not just a standalone initiative? Because we see a lot of other companies come up with programs and initiatives as a standalone effort for women. But how do you make sure that it's a part of the entire ecosystem?
So when you look at processes. There is hiring, retention, and promotion. These are the three processes where you get to have these programs integrated. So if you take hiring, if you take fresher hiring, we in a year we take around 20,000-30,000 generally in a good year. So we have programs that focus on colleges. We have a program called Nurture Her, which goes to colleges and educate girls specifically to be having that grit and resilience and growth mindset. So hiring process focusing into colleges, developing girl students to come into workforce and sustain careers. When you take promotion, we are developing our associates through various programs, managerial development programs, leadership development programs. By taking those programs, they develop their skills to network, to build a brand, and to create a visibility for themselves. And when it comes to retention, there are multiple practices each of the business units have. Talking to each one of them is the main thing. Like when you are in a mid-management or lower management timeline, know how we can kind of interact with them, ensure that they are understanding the importance of sustaining careers, and ensure that we are able to retain as much workforce as possible. So that's a process area through which we integrate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. I hope you enjoy the evening. We'll now go back to Mangalam.
Well, I have with me Mr. Amitabh, who's the head of investment banking at HSBC itself. We've been speaking to a lot of leaders at HSBC, and they've been talking about how, the wonderful things that they've been doing to increase labor force participation in leadership levels. It is close to 27% female participation out there. A lot of the programs that they've done too. So the obvious question then, investment banking as an industry, we have seen a fair amount of, male dominance out there. So how do you ensure that there is equal labor force participation there?
I guess it starts at the hiring stage, whereby when firms like ours goes to campus, we make a conscious effort and a drive to have more female participants in our interview process, and hopefully we get larger participation in the form of acceptance. And so you start at the ground level, to say it first, and then to make sure that the talent is harnessed and nurtured. No different from any man would be, but at the same time just making sure consciously that you work on that effort. Look, at the end of the day, investment banking, like any other profession, requires commitment to the cause. And as far as women are concerned, there's going to be a lot more support and initiative from an organization that is committed towards it.
Wonderful. And what would your mix be right now?
It's difficult to put the exact ratio and number, but certainly we'll have an average over the number that you mentioned right now. You said 27%. Yes. Will be much higher than that for sure.
And investment banking typically involves long working hours, and there are a lot of impediments for female participation in a situation like this. What is it that you're doing to make it a lot more comfortable for the ones who work in your organization?
Look, the first thing I'll tell you is that my own daughter is an investment banker, and I did tell her this, saying that only if you are ready to bust your behind towards this, then just be committed to the cause. And she has been just like anyone else. So it's not about my personal family member, but it's a lot more about what each individual is doing. But your question was, what are we doing in order to make that late hours and facilitate policies? It's all policy work. Make sure they have availability if they're sitting late to take private taxis to go home, or any safe environment to be provided. There is somebody out there to look after that. Look, they are no different from men as far as ability and in terms of stature is concerned. So they can take care of themselves, but we provide all of those assistance that will be there, and the policy is conducive towards that, so that they feel encouraged to be part of the system.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining in and giving us an insight into what takes place in the corridors of investment banking at HSBC when it comes to inclusion and labor force participation and gender equality. Thank you so much, Amitabh. All right, so that was the conversation that we were having with Amitabh, who is the head investment banking at HSBC. Though what we'll try to do is we'll try and get some more interesting conversations for you. That's it from the red carpet here at Future Female Forward. We come back and we get you all things Future Female Forward after this short break.